Hello, Needham, and for those of you watching on the internet, hello, world. And welcome to What's My House Worth? Alongside Ryan McDonnell, I am Rob Ticktin. We're with Hawthorne Real Estate. We do brokerage and we build homes right here in Needham. How you doing, Ryan?
Pretty good, Rob. Pretty good.
All right, you ready to take a look at the Needham real estate scene for the month of April?
Yeah, why not? Since we're here.
I'm in. Let's dive right in to April to see how many single-family homes sold per MLS, and the number that pops up on the screen is 22.
Yep, 22 versus 20 last month. Got to be honest, I thought we'd have more closings, given all the activity, all the properties that have gone under agreement in April. But just 22 with, look at that average list price of over $1 million. I think that's the first time we've had that. And the average sale price also over $1 million. Still holding pretty steady at 97. Our sale as a 97% of the list price and a 94% of the original list, which is down a little bit from 95% last month, but still in that range that we typically see.
Well, Ryan, you just alluded to it about the $1 million kind of threshold. How about this stat? Over the past year, I went on a month-by-month basis, the highest average sales price. You want to guess what that was before this month?
Before this month, I was going to say this month, but it's
Yes.
probably somewhere in the eights.
Yes, $891.
Yeah.
So suddenly we've jumped up $120,000, and it's the first time that we've seen the average sales price in a month in Needham go above that $1 million barrier. And as far as I'm concerned, if our viewers take anything away from this show this month, it's that number. And what does that mean? And is this all of a sudden going to be the first of many down the line, or is this just a blip on the radar?
We'll have to see. I mean, clearly when we start looking at the properties that have sold individually, we do have a lot of new construction closing in April, and it may just be timing, it may be somewhat of a coincidence, especially as we get into seeing some of these houses that are under agreement now close. There's been a lot of homes come on in the 5s and 6s and 7s that have gone under in the last couple of weeks. Right.
Well, maybe something that we can track in shows to come with a graph just to see, because going over $1 million, as far as I'm concerned, that's a big deal.
Yep. Yeah,
and
sure.
We'll see if it starts a trend.
It did bring the average, I'm sorry to interrupt you, the average list price, or average sale price per square foot came down back to that 300 range that we'd been seeing in the first few months prior to the last few months, where it was up in the 320s.
Right, as you might expect, because the higher a house sells for, the lower the dollars per square foot. Still
Right.
over $300, but I noticed that as well. Days on market 141. There's one in particular that drove up that
There's
number.
a couple, yeah.
So we'll see those, and then 28 back in April of 2012. Now let's take a look back at the trailing 6 months to see what the sales look like on a month-by-month basis as we start to kind of spring in to this spring season. And it lays out pretty much exactly like you would think it would, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, we keep saying that, seems like every month, that the graph always looks the way it's supposed to look. I mean, you could really put these graphs up year over year as we do, and the numbers may change a little bit, but the shape of the curve tends to look the same.
Right, the February dip, if you will, always seems to be there, because who wants to be moving in the middle of winter? Not me.
No.
All right, April. So you said 22 sales was a little bit surprising, a little bit lower than you had thought.
Yeah.
So let's stack it up against the previous 6 Aprils and see where it measures. And it does break a little bit of a trend over the past 6 years as you look at the previous 6 Aprils.
Yeah, and I think it's timing. I mean, I think we're still going to see a very robust and healthy spring market. I mean, as we're looking in the marketplace, the inventory comes on and goes off. So we're going to see more closings in May and probably more in June, and those numbers will climb. Maybe our June will be something like our June last year, which I'm sure you all remember.
It may be, and it's also, I'm sure, the product of the fact that the inventory is so low, which we talked about last month. I don't think it's a reflection on less demand than there was a year ago.
Right.
There are just less options out there, and as a result, it's pulling things down a little bit. But more and more homes starting to go under agreement now, so I agree, it's going to keep going upward. Now let's take a look on all the real estate that is sold on a case-by-case basis. As usual, we start at the bottom end of the chain as far as sales price and work our way up. And the first slide that comes up is 133 Brookside Road. That's a pretty low number, wouldn't you say?
It is low. It's especially on a lot that's almost 14,000 square feet.
Yes.
Brookside is sort of a connector between Needham and Wellesley, out off Forest Street, sort of past Valente Farms.
Good commuter location, some would say.
Yeah, some might say that. So, I mean, this home's a small home on a big lot. You know, it has approval for a 2-bedroom septic plan, which doesn't really do much for very many people.
No.
Yeah, so you might want to look into possibly expanding on that a little bit.
Agreed.
Unless you have gigantic bedrooms.
Which you can get creative, and you can do 2 bedrooms and a den. But that certainly is not a big draw, especially for somebody who wants to develop that piece of real estate. But you're right, big lot, kind of a bumpier road, and it is within walking distance to Valente Farms, which I know is a plus for some people. So that's the anything else on here jump out at you? Just 1121 as far as finished square footage?
Yep, not very big.
No. Anything else? That's it?
That's it.
All right, let's go jump over, let's get a little bit closer to 128, 12 Jane Road. Seems to kind of be a theme for us usually as we start off the show, is we have a lot of homes that are close to 128, kind of in this neighborhood.
Oh, yep, sure.
And 12 Jane is our first one of the episode.
Yeah, 12 Jane, this was purchased by a gentleman who's buying some properties in Needham to use as rental properties.
And there are some rentals on that street.
Yeah.
That's some good knowledge.
Thanks.
Dated on the interior of the house, but a big yard, I noticed.
Yeah, it's a good sized lot. It's good for, it's good for a rental property. As you said, there's other rentals on the street. And it's something that you buy that might need a little bit of money to fix up, but you're not going to be putting in, hundreds of thousands of dollars to it. You're just doing cosmetic upgrades to keep it in a condition that warrants renting.
Right. 3 price reductions for that house. We talked about the days on market seemed a little bit high. This was one of the reasons, 172 days on market, but it is on a cul-de-sac, which is always a plus.
Those are fun.
That one sells for $455,000. That one had 3 price reductions. Our next listing had 5 price reductions, and that one is 57 Wachusett Road. This is a tricky location, to say the least. Wouldn't you agree? I
would, and it's tricky both from a real estate agent's perspective. This is one of those houses. In Needham, we're blessed with a lot of homes that are easy to comp. They're relatively, you could be certain within a few percentage points of what the value is. This one's tough because there's just so few properties like it. I mean, it's up on Wachusett, which just has some of the best views in Needham. I mean, you're overlooking, really the whole town. It's really pretty spectacular. But there aren't a lot of properties like it, and even the ones that are along that street are different from one to the next. So it's kind of tough to comp this out. But the house also needed some work, so throw that on top of it.
It did need some work.
It's not, hey, move-in condition, this place is all buttoned up. You've got a house that you're really selling the view. But, it's tricky because your entrance in your car is coming off of Alpine Terrace. Right. Your street address is on Wachusett. It's just a very unique and sort of, odd whole bundle of
real estate.
Real estate.
Right, and it's not necessarily a yard that you're sending your young kids out to go play around.
No, unless they have somebody that's going to do the belay thing with them.
But I actually showed this house in the middle of winter, not long after we got a lot of snow, and it was tricky getting in and out of there, Alpine Terrace, and I thought, to myself, that's the time you want to see this house, because how accessible is it? And we got in there, but it was tight, and so it's challenging, and like you said, it's a unique piece of real estate.
But great views.
Great views.
Panoramic.
65 Alden doesn't necessarily have great views per se, but it is in a good neighborhood, and there is something that jumps out on this listing as we look at it. That's the last line. Hello, Ryan's Deal of the Month.
Yep, and here I go again, right? I sound like a broken record. This one, in fairness to 65 Alden, they got a lot of offers. I mean, they were well over 5, maybe.
At least 8.
Yeah. So I still think it's a great deal for the seller, and even though the market is what it is, this is a great time to capitalize on it, because this house, I think in any other market or maybe even any other time of the year, might not get $600,000.
Agreed.
So it's a split level. It's needs a ton of
needed
work.
Everything.
So absolutely everything. So essentially it equates to a land sale. Whether the person who bought it, who is, as we understand it, sort of kind of not sure what he's going to do with it now because of essentially what he paid for it. But it's essentially a land sale when you think about it, because the house needed so much work. But it is a great little neighborhood. I mean, I know some people that live over there. They seem to like it.
Oh. Good
but
knowledge.
Again, still, it's such a good deal for the seller. They have to be happy.
Right. The buyer for this real estate, like you had said, a developer, from what we understand, from out of town, still trying to figure out what he's going to do with that piece of real estate. So stay tuned. Maybe we'll have some more information for you in next month's show. Next up is 144 Laurel Drive. This was a piece of real estate, that's the 3rd time I've said it at the show, that I thought would be your deal of the month. You and I both saw this one, as we both saw Alden, and thought $599. At least I thought it wasn't going to be going much higher than that.
How about $620?
That's a number.
Wow. Yeah, it was definitely a candidate. I almost thought it was too predictable for me to have this one as my deal of the month. So I thought about it, Again, I do think it's another great deal for the seller. It's
Great deal.
It's listed at 1,900 square feet, just over, but Public Records actually has it at 14. So it's one of those ones where you really got to make sure you read the disclosures, see what does this 1,900 square feet include. It includes a basement. So I mean, which is fine as long as it's it's understood on all sides. The lot's under 9,000 square feet, so not huge, but the Laurel Drive community is a great little enclave. I mean, we've seen a decent amount of turnover on that street in the last couple of years, but the properties always seem to sell quickly and in pretty good demand. And
just 2 bedrooms upstairs in that house as well. Right. We've talked about before how the kind of $700,000 and $800,000 range is the sweet spot, but I feel like the $600,000 range is kind of becoming the sweet spot if you're in the right location because demand is so fierce for it.
Right.
And I think Alden and Laurel are 2 examples of that. The next house I would say is not an example of that. Actually, it is. It's the 3rd in a row that's an example of that. I jumped ahead a little bit. 93 Paul Revere Road. Again, 3rd consecutive listing now in that quote-unquote sweet spot where the sale price is exceeding the list.
Right, and I think this one, I remember when it came on, and I almost got the impression that it was possibly deliberately underpriced because it was sort of at the start of this madness of people paying through the nose for properties in the 6s, but it went on for $619 and just said, well, geez, this really looks very attractive, and sure enough, it had multiple offers, went in essentially a weekend. It says days on market, 5 days, but it was gone.
As soon as it went on.
Yeah. So, and selling for $634, it doesn't surprise me. And this, I think, was one of the first one that come out that really drove the frenzy of demand for these properties in the 6s. I mean,
Interesting.
It's a great location. It's in Mitchell. It's a really nice neighborhood. And I think, looking back, I think this buyer probably got a pretty good deal, considering some of the sales prices we've seen on similar houses that went under agreement after this one.
Right. At the time, you thought maybe they spent a little bit too much, but
Yeah.
here we are a couple months later, and it seems like it was suitably priced, but not a deal of the month necessarily in either direction. The next one also went in the 6s, but it's a little bit of the antithesis of the 3 that we just looked at. 186 Central, you've got a lot more square feet, a less desirable location, if you will, busier street, 2-line street, which I've heard you say in the past, just a few houses down from Gould Street. So this is, you kind of get a little bit more bang for your buck in terms of square footage. We both saw this house as well, and it was pretty neat. It had some good things going for it. The upstairs, was it the master? Was that the master?
It had like a
upstairs?
bonus room off of the master, which was kind of neat.
Right.
And it has a pool.
It has a pool?
It has a pool.
Okay.
But you're right. I mean, Central is a busy road. I mean, you're getting more value for or more square footage for your money, obviously. But you just have to understand exactly what your priorities are as a buyer, and you value the square footage. You want the pool. It had some nice updates. Then this is a good price. It's a lot of house for that money.
That house was on the market for 111 days. 62 Brookline is next up on our list of houses. This one sold for $649. It was listed in January. If I remember correctly, tried to beat the spring market. Didn't happen. Sold in April for $649.
I mean, maybe go back and adjust the beat the spring market in the listing, because
once you get to spring,
right? When you're looking at that in April, you're confused as a consumer. I'm confused.
Yes, I can tell often.
But this one, I think it sold in a couple years ago for $626, I believe.
Okay.
And I think the biggest challenge on this one is there's not a good place to park, because there's no garage, and you have this little nook right off of Brookline that I gotta believe in the winter might get a little dicey.
Right.
But
similar to a house that's on the market right now that we've visited. Presumably be looking at down the road.
That's called a teaser.
That's a teaser. So keep watching. But we're at least a few months away. Anything else on this one jumps out at you? It's overall, I would say, a desirable location. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, Brookline's a little busy and it is kind of close to Greendale, but it's in Needham.
Okay. 6 Avalon Road is next on our tour through homes that sold in the month of April. And as we look at the slide of this house, I notice, Ryan, that you're scratching your head. Why is that?
It's just not your ordinary raised ranch. But I guess that I'm just a little bit confused. I mean, it sold for $16,000 over asking. I mean, again, I think it's a seller that really has to be happy. I mean, Avalon's a nice little location. Raised ranch takes a unique buyer. It's someone who wants, people who tend to want ranches are the ones that want single level living, don't want to deal with stairs, maybe are a little older or just really don't want the stair aspect of it. But the Rays Ranch is all of that, except you have to walk upstairs to get to it. So I've never really understood the Rays Ranch. Maybe maybe this buyer can enlighten me.
Well, I'm guessing that for some people, the style of the house maybe is less important than the condition of the house or how updated the house is. So maybe with this as an example of they wanted some space, they needed the bedrooms, they liked the fact that it was move-in condition, they were willing to overlook the type of house.
Yes, and that's why real estate is one of the most personal.
Right.
One of the most personal aspects of your overall living condition.
But also an example of if you underprice it,
True.
it'll seek its own level.
Yeah,
I
mean it's a lot of square footage, 2,600 square feet in the sevens. It's a good buy.
I agree, it's a good buy, which brings us to our next slide.
Here we
which
go.
Is a really good buy. 3,100 square feet, and boom, Rob's deal of the month.
That's a deal of the month right there, folks.
I mean, coming on the heels of the Avalon listing, why not? We're talking about $20,000 more for an extra 500 square feet on a very quiet road. Granted, corner of Great Plain and Powder House. Good sized lot, pool in the backyard. Definitely will scare away some buyers, and it takes up a lot of the backyard. But if you really feel that strongly about it, throw 10 grand at it, get rid of the pool, and you got a nice sized backyard.
Right, because you have the Boston Sports Club pool right around the corner.
Yes, you do. And I think the reason that this came to be my deal of the month was, in hindsight, it seemed that maybe it was a little bit overpriced out of the gate. And due to the fact that it was overpriced, it sat on the market. People get a little scared away from things that are on the market a little bit too long. It becomes stale, gets reduced, and suddenly it's in Rob's deal of the month territory. And that's what happened with this one. It claimed the title, sale price $775. Congratulations to the buyers of 6 Powder House Circle. You are this month's deal of the month.
Well, one of them.
Right, good point. Well, they're the only buyer that won the deal of the month.
That's true.
49 Oakcrest Road, no awards given for this listing, but it did sell pretty quickly and at a price that I'm sure the builder was happy with, considering he put it on at $1,029,000 and it sold after just 15 days, or went under agreement after just 15 days for $1,020,000.
Right, I mean, and this is interesting because now that we're a year into doing the show, we're starting to see some of the properties turn over that were maybe purchased for redevelopment. Like, remember when this one sold last year, the builder paid $350,000 for it. And we said we were interested in keeping an eye on it, see what kind of a product he put out. He did the right thing on this lot. I mean, he built. It's not a huge footprint. It's a nicely finished house. It's tailored very well to the location, to the street. I think he did a good job, and I think you're right. He's probably pretty happy with it.
Yeah, and here we are, 11 houses in. We've already crossed over the $1 million threshold.
Right.
So let's go along that $1 million path. 101 Garden Street is next up. This is just a little bit over $1 million, $1,080,000 to be exact. Built in 2004, in-town location, but pretty close to the train.
Right.
Sold in 2004 for $1.025 million. Did 101 Garden. 158 Parker Road is next up, and this one jumps out at me at least because, well, we saw this first of all when it came on the market, but not very often do you see a house that goes under agreement in just 5 days, but goes under for, what is that, $80,000 less than list.
Right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you do take the first offer is often the best one.
I guess.
So,
I mean, if I have a buyer after 5 days and they want to go 80 grand under asking, I'm saying you're probably not going to get it. But
right.
What do I know? 29 Smith Street. I know a little bit about that one. It's kind of tucked away there behind the Great Plain Central corner, not far from Newman. Thoughts on that one?
One thing I noticed that I liked is they had a laundry room on the first and the second floor. Because people always say, like, what's better, the first or the second floor? And one person might say one might say the other. This has both. So the other thing I noticed about it is the master suite was arranged such that the master closet was only accessible through the bathroom. And I thought that was sort of odd.
Yeah, that is a little odd.
I've seen it the other way around quite a bit, where you get to the bathroom through the closet, but not the other way, not this way.
I don't love the dual washer dryers, but to each his own. 15 Bancroft Street. There are a few things I didn't love about that one either. It was a tough driveway, not much of a backyard, but it sold for $122,850.
Yeah, I mean, this one is really one of our days on market drivers. I mean, this is 483 days. It's a tough lot of retainage. Once it's right on a ravine. It's a good location, but this was a tough development project, I think.
16 Intervale Road is a house that you don't see this very often. Sold in April of 2012 for $1,225, and then sold again in April 2013 for $129. I would say the homeowner did pretty well for him or herself. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep, I would agree.
750 Chestnut is not my deal of the month, but it's arguably my favorite picture of the month. You don't see the nighttime picture.
No,
very often.
This is definitely a trademark of this real estate agent. And I like it. It's kind of cool. Like you know, it caught your eye. I like this house too. It was very unique. It's an expanded cape on a huge 3.3 acre lot. It's a first floor master, very nicely updated, a very nice pool. This was a cool house. I think, you know, at 1.3, you know, I like this as a buyer.
4,000 square feet for that house, 1,575 of that in the lower level.
Right.
Moving over to 223 Manning Street, Ryan, this one sold for $1.310. It was on the market for a little while.
Just under 250 days. I mean, I think this is one where you're on the corner of two busy streets, Manning and Brookline.
Good location, though.
Good location. It's a very high visibility location. I mean, right by the high school. But there's just really not a lot of outdoor space, and I think that might have contributed to this house sitting as long as it did.
And it said in the listing all above ground square footage.
Applies to no finished basement.
No finished basement, finished attic.
Yep.
And if you did a poll of 100 new construction buyers in Needham and said, would you rather have a finished attic or would you rather have a finished basement, how many of the 100 would say they'd rather have a finished attic, do you think?
I think it's well under 50%.
I agree.
Yeah.
But yet a lot of builders do finish the attics.
Right, and there's a reason for that, which we can get into it in another show.
You know what I talk about now?
It has to do with the appraised value.
Appraised value is higher with a finished attic than with a finished basement.
Right.
Interesting. If anybody wants to ask about that, you can call in later. We'll give the number and the email address. Next up is 81 Arch Street. A little bit of a similar looking home, I think, to 223 Manning, if you think about it. And it also had in common the fact that it was on the market for quite a while, but this one could be in contention for most days on market.
Yeah, it gave it its best shot.
For our end of year spectacular. 429 is nothing to sneeze at.
No, it isn't. And this one, the facts are similar to Manning. It's a corner lot, which does limit your outdoor space, especially when you put up as big a house as they did. And
less traffic though.
Less traffic. It's a wonderful location. Don't get me wrong. The corner of Arch and Savoy. It's a great spot. But I think this one is a case of where the builder got in a little bit heavy with the purchase price. You know, bought it in the 640s, and then once you do that, you know, you're married to that purchase price, and it's a lot harder to objectively look at your value on the way out when you're feeling like you're swimming against the tide a little bit, trying to make some of that money back.
Never good to swim against the tide, either literally or figuratively.
Very tiring.
But right, instead of thinking using the market to determine how to price your house, instead you're using what you bought in for to determine how you price your house.
The dreaded backing into your sale price.
Never a good thing.
No.
And that probably has a lot to do with the fact of it being on the market for 430 days. Ryan, one more question.
Yeah, well, I just noticed in the write-up it referred to it as a custom-built home, which I mean, knowing that it was a spec house, how do you
right. You see that? I feel like you see that though every once in a while when people refer to things as custom when they're really not. 52 Longacre Road may or may not. Actually, that wasn't the custom home either when it was originally sold in 2007. Thank you. Sold for $1,425. Did you notice on this house there were carpets in the bedrooms?
Yeah, and that's I guess it's not uncommon. I don't know actually if this house was built on spec or for a customer back in 07, or it did. I mean, not a bad resale number, by the way, for this one.
Agreed. Yeah. And it wasn't spec because it was on the market.
Oh, well, there you have it.
Yeah.
So the carpet in the bedroom is definitely a cheaper option for a builder without question.
Right. What do you prefer?
I'm finding that most of our customers prefer hardwood. At least doing the hardwood, you have the option of putting an area rug, whereas you do the carpet and you're sort of married to it.
Yeah, agreed. That was 52 Longacre, which brings us to 172 Fair Oaks Park, arguably one of the nicest streets in all of America, or so I've been told.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what people...
Take that, Topeka, Kansas.
Yeah, or just take that, America. I mean, it ranks up there, or at least that's what I'm told.
Yeah, okay.
Do you agree?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, Fair Oaks. Good stuff.
Yeah? Well, this house, the builder purchased it in 2011 for $790,000. So evidently put a little bit of money into it,
Probably,
right?
yep.
Expanded it a little bit, but it was a pretty classic looking house when he purchased
Yeah,
it.
and I really like what he did inside of it. I mean, it's very cool. I mean, this you're the owner of 172 Fair Oaks Park. You're the owner of a house where there really isn't another house just like it anywhere, anywhere on the street, in the neighborhood, even in the town. I mean, I think it's very unique. It's a very cool house on a great piece of property, piece of real estate, Rob.
Yes.
5 beds, over 4,000 square feet, and in a very classically done way. I really like this. This is a good one.
And it was on the market for exactly 1 day longer than our Manning Street listing that we just looked at a little while ago.
They went a little head-to-head.
Yes, and Fair Oaks won or lost, depending on your parameters. The last one is it's a big one, Ryan.
Yeah.
We are jumping above the $2 million threshold to 69 Windsor Road.
And I got to tell you, I was very, very impressed by this house.
Is that right? Get your stamp of approval?
It's really cool. I mean, it showed what a builder can do when they really kind of sit back and take the lot in. The lot had an existing pool. It was a wreck. He instead of ripping everything up, he renovated and he rehabbed the landscape that was there, and he put together a really nice finished product out there. And the house itself was meticulous in its detail, just high-end finishings across the board. I mean, this is where someone who says, all right, I'm looking for that over $2 million price point, and I'm going to put things into this house that's going to justify it. And
Such as? Do you have an example?
Well, I mean, the woodwork, the finishings, everywhere. The bathrooms were beautiful, and he put a geothermal heating system in there. This guy's one of the few spec builders that will do that. And at this price point, I think it warrants it. It's a little tougher to do in the in the 1.4, 1.3 price point, but the geothermal heating system is a great asset. It's something that you're going to find more and more prevalent in today's new builds. But this is a house that really, really deserves its price tag. I thought you did a great job.
Could be another award winner for our year-end spectacular for
could be
potentially highest selling home in Needham for 2013. That concludes our house-by-house analysis of the Needham market for the month of April. We are now going to do what we always do, and that is look ahead just a little bit to see what is going on over the course of this month right now in the Needham real estate scene. And the active listings,
54.
That's a good sign, right?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yep. So that's going up, as are the number of homes that are under agreement.
Yeah. So I think it's positioning us for a lot of homes to talk about in the next couple months. Definitely.
Right. Average listing price is wow.
Yikes.
1.57 million is that's a lot of dough.
Yeah, it is a lot of dough.
And as that number continues to climb, presumably the average sales price will also continue to climb as it has this month. Anything else jump out? 94 days, I'm guessing, has come down a little bit based on some of the homes that have sold this month.
Right. I think next month we're going to see the average days be considerably lower than they were this month, just from what we've seen in the market.
All right. Well, remember that. Average listing price
You heard
per
it
square
right
foot,
here.
$351. Average, that's $47 per square foot more than the average selling price in the month of April. If anybody would like to call into the show with any questions, comments, or anything they'd like to see us talk about next month, Ryan, what would be the number they should call?
They should call 781-707-6564.
And we also have an email address.
We do.
Want to pass that along?
I'd love to. It's rob.ryan@hawthornere.com.
So that will do it for our April installment of the market. Any thoughts as we sign off here on what to look forward to as we enter the month of May?
I don't know. It's very exciting though. There's just so much activity out there. The town is bustling with real estate commotion.
Signs are going up, and signs are then coming right back out
Right,
just a couple months later.
Exactly.
That does it for this month's installment of What's My House Worth? That's Ryan McDonnell. I'm Rob Ticktin. We will see you right here soon.
Good job, everybody.
Bye, world.